Hi everybody. Today's web blog is going to be about a very, very controversial subject, which is vaccination. Um, I have my own opinions on it. I've done research about vaccinations from both sides, from people who say vaccinating your children is an absolute must, and also from people on the other side who say if you vaccinate your children, they'll be retarded, or it causes autism, or it causes so many problems. Um, it was really scary at first when somebody made that connection between vaccinations and autism. That was that was terrifying. I didn't even have kids when they made that connection, and I didn't want to vaccinate my kids when I had them because I was still in my head that's going to make my kids autistic. Maybe it won't, but I always figured there's a really great chance that my kids could be autistic if I get them vaccinated. I did vaccinate my children, by the way, but I was, really iffy about the whole thing. Um, because, on one side, there's when you have a baby, they give your baby a hepatitis vaccination. They give your baby whooping cough vaccination. All these vaccinations number one, why do you need to vaccinate a newborn baby against a sexually transmitted disease? You know, and when they were vaccinating for whooping cough and polio, it's like, it doesn't happen anymore. People don't get polio. They don't. It's and but my kids got vaccinated anyway, and on one hand, it's like, yeah, they're being vaccinated with all this crap that they don't need to be vaccinated for. But then you think about it, and on the other hand, it's like I could vaccinate my child against measles, but I won't. There's like, I could vaccinate my child, and he could never get measles. He could go his entire life and never have measles, never have chickenpox, never have polio. Or, I could vaccinate my kid, and then I know they won't get it because they're vaccinated against it. But it's like, yeah, your child could maybe go his entire life without getting polio or without, getting whooping cough or whatever. But if you don't vaccinate, there's also a chance that they could, and it's either, the way I see it is either vaccinate your kids or they could die. Like, really, why would you want to take that chance? Because study after study after study over the last couple of years has proven over and over and over again that vaccinations do not cause autism. And here's my personal opinion on that. If your child is autistic, he would have been autistic whether or not you vaccinated. I think that's all predestined, it's predetermined before the child was even born. And I think if your child's going to be autistic, he's going to be autistic. There's nothing that caused it, nothing that you did to, vaccinate, or anything you did while you were pregnant, that did not cause your child to be autistic. And I think, after kind of going back and forth on the whole deal, for the last 5 years that I've had kids, my personal opinion right now is if you don't vaccinate your children, that's very irresponsible. Because not only are you putting your children at risk, you're putting everybody around your children at risk. Somebody else's child could die because he came in contact with your child who was not vaccinated and had this illness. And number one, I don't think anybody really wants that on their conscience. And I just, when people say, well, this, polio hasn't been an issue, whooping cough's not an issue. It hasn't been for years. But if you think about it, maybe polio and rubella and mumps and measles and all those things, maybe those haven't been an issue in America because we've been vaccinating our children against them for years. No crap, it hasn't been an issue. But actually, in the past, like 2-3 years, when people have decided not to vaccinate their children, there's been an outbreak of whooping cough. There's been outbreaks of measles and mumps, and there's been children that have died because their parents have not vaccinated them. Because you stop vaccinating your kids, you are basically giving these illnesses, like opening a door for those illnesses to come into our children's lives and take over, just like they did years ago before they started vaccinating for them. So, once they do that, they're going to have to, come up with a new vaccination. They're going to have to start vaccinating kids for it, and then it'll go away. Then we won't see it for years because we're vaccinated. The whole reason that they haven't seen those diseases in years and those illnesses in quite some time is because we've been vaccinating our children against them. And I mean, I really do get, I'm a mom myself. Um, I have a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and I get it. I get when people say your body can heal itself from the inside out. I know. I'm absolute 100% proof that that can happen. I mean, when I got sick 3 years ago, the doctors didn't know if I was going to live or die, and I think, of course, I took medicines while I was in the hospital for 10 months. I took medications for it, prescription medications. When I got out of the hospital, I I went vegan. I stopped eating meat. I stopped eating dairy products. I ate, tons of vegetables, tons of fruit, and I got better within weeks. It was like I was a completely different person. I got so much better. Um, when I was in the hospital, I was still eating dairy products. I was still eating meat. Yes, I was taking prescription medication. And when I was in the hospital, I got so sick, I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't write my name. I had to go to physical therapy to learn how to write my name again. I had to learn how to walk all over again. And, that's an instance where I think that prescription medication was necessary. Is it always necessary? No, I don't believe so. And I mean, I use prescription medication as an absolute last resort. I'm a firm believer in diet. Changing your diet, stop feeding yourself crap, stop giving crap to your kids, and your body will heal itself from the inside out. But I think there are some instances where yes, you do need prescription medications. Yes, you do need these vaccinations. Yes, you do need to get these shots. And there are some people who don't vaccinate their children who say all I have to do is make sure my child exercises, make sure he gets enough sunlight, and change his diet, and he won't get sick. No, that's not how this works. When you have serious illnesses and serious diseases and serious germs like that, just in the air and around, you need to vaccinate your child. It's really important, I think, to have a great diet and to exercise and to make sure you go outside and get some sunlight. But it's like a diet isn't like, I don't know, I guess the best thing I can use is something that I said to a friend of mine a couple months ago. Yes, you can change your diet. Like if you get an STD, like yes, you can change your diet. You can go vegan, you can exercise, but you can't diet your way out of herpes. You know what I mean? There are some things that holistic medicine and vegan diets. There's some things they're not a cure. They help prevent, but they don't necessarily cure these things. You do still need prescription medication for some things. And like my stepson, he's 9, he has ADHD. He went years without medication, and he was really bad. And then when I married my husband, I changed my stepson's diet. I made sure he was going outside, getting direct sunlight. I made sure he was exercising. I think a big part of his ADHD and him misbehaving was the fact that he didn't have rules, he didn't have direction, he didn't have anything until I married my husband. And then I sat down. I said, these are the rules, these are your chores, this is what's expected of you. He didn't have that before. So, those rules and setting boundaries in combination with the diet change, making sure he had exercise and all that other crap, it got a little better. But you know what? It still wasn't where I thought he needed to be. So I did make an appointment with him to get him medicated. He needed that prescription medication. And the prescription medication, along with the diet and exercise and the boundaries and the rules, it's made all the difference in the world. He's like a completely different kid, which is amazing because it was so frustrating. Anybody who has a kid with ADHD knows how frustrating it is. And I think, going back to the vaccination thing, I think it's necessary. I know it's necessary. And I think not vaccinating your children is completely irresponsible on your part. It should honestly be counted as some sort of child abuse. Because when you don't vaccinate your kids, you're giving diseases and illnesses a window of opportunity to sneak in, get inside your kid, and make them sick. And if they do get sick, if they get measles or they get polio or they get whooping cough, that's all on the parents for not vaccinating.